It's All Things Considered, Hawaii Public Radio, and we are in the Atherton Performing Arts Studio. Aloha, I'm Dave Lawrence. It's a very special room where we have done this 3 times now with this gentleman who has a new record, Travels, and his 4th annual Friends Concerts just unveiled. Jake Shimabukuro, welcome back, and a big mahalo for doing this.
Hey, great to see you, Dave. No, thanks. Always an honor to talk with you, to be on your show, and just to be here at Hawaii Public Radio, for sure.
It's a great thing to have you back in the room. It's always a lot of fun. And before I get into the thing, I have Hawaii Theater December 12th. I have Kahilu Theater December 9th. Are there going to be more islands unveiled for this?
Yes, on December 11th, I'll be performing at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center as well.
Okay, very good. So, and that's it. So it's just 3.
Yeah, so it'll be kind of like my end of the year, kind of home show, homecoming show.
I just wanted to include the other islands.
Yeah,
the other years we were always talking Honolulu, and then
no, definitely, Maui and Big Island, and
no Kauai.
Hopefully next year we can get Kauai on there.
Into the mix.
Yeah,
you do it on the beach there.
I love it. I love Kauai, man. It's just gorgeous, so beautiful.
Well, just taking a look at your itinerary, there's a lot of places that apparently love you. Travels is the record. When I first was getting it, I thought at first, maybe it's a live record just by the name of it, and then going through it, I realized it wasn't. And a big thank you, by the way, for wanting to come back and do this in the studio with me. It means a lot. And if you can, explain what this album means to you.
Yeah, well, Travels, I worked with 2 buddies of mine, Milan Bertosa and Dean Taba, who co-produced it with me. And it's really, it's my first album in 4 years. So the title, we came up with Travels because it's kind of like, for me, just all the different influences that I've had, over the last few years, traveling and touring and playing with different musicians. So I feel like it's my most diverse record. And also, the idea of travel is also my kind of my journey as a ukulele player, over the years, since I first picked it up at the age of 4, starting out with a lot of traditional Hawaiian music to moving on to contemporary Hawaiian music and reggae, and then later on, rock and roll and some blues and, a little bit of jazz and some classical music. So it's an album where I wanted to kind of capture that, just kind of almost like my personal evolution, as a musician. So it's got some very traditional music on there, like Hi'ilave, but there's also one of my all-time favorites. I covered Sunday Manoa's Kavika. Well, Sunday Manoa and Kyle Crater Boys, because Kavika for me was like being an ukulele player growing up in Hawaii. I tell people that was like our stairway to heaven. If you're a guitar player, you learn the first, the opening guitar riff to Stairway to Heaven. Well, Kavika, that was Stairway to Heaven for us, and when we were teenagers, we were all trying to learn that solo, Peter Moon's solo. We all wanted to learn Peter Moon's solo. And so for me, recording that was a big deal because, Peter Moon was a huge influence for me, for a lot of ukulele players. I mean, he was one of the greatest virtuosos, on the strings here in Hawaii. And so, that was kind of a tribute to the Sunday Manoa Band and Peter Moon. And then, and then there's other things on there where the title track, for example, is a very kind of almost like a jazz influence. And I use a tremolo technique on there that was kind of Ota-san's signature technique. I grew up listening to a lot of albums by Ota-san, and he was another huge influence for me. And he had this, he uses his thumb, and he'll take a single note and he'll play this like kind of back and forth. And he would get that nice mandolin sound, on the ukulele. And I love the way that he played, his melodies that way. So, this album, for the title track Travels, I wanted to write a song where I could play the whole melody just using the tremolo technique. And, Ota-san was such a great jazz ukulele player. And so the song definitely has a strong jazz influence. And in the middle section of that song, there's actually a kind of almost like an Ornette Coleman kind of vibe, where Dean Taba played bass, Nolo Kimoto played drums, and Michael Grande played keyboards. and we just did this free improvisational thing, in the middle, and it's really cool. It's something that I had never done before, So to me, those two songs, Kavika and Travels, really, is kind of the two extremes for me, going from the very traditional to something that I had never done before.
And it kind of encapsulates the journey a little bit of the way between starts in one place. By Travels is both an album that showcases your journey, but by having the Hawaiian on there and then having something that's a new exploration, it's almost showing from point A to B, or
Exactly.
It like illustrates the movement, I guess. Or are there memories you have, stories attached with writing any of the things? Maybe, and I guess I'm thinking, was any of it written on the road? When I guess I look at the picture of you, I see the rug, Grateful Dead style, underneath of you on the stage, and were there incidents along the way that you can point to that you'd like to share?
Yeah, a lot of the songs that are on the original pieces on this album, I wrote them on the bus, while we were touring. And a good chunk was actually right before we went to the recording studio. I got inspired like maybe 4 or 5 days before we went into the studio, and I just started writing these songs. And I would I would email them to Milan and Dean and say, hey, what do you guys think of this? What do you guys think of this? And I mean, almost every day I was writing like 2 or 3 new tunes.
So you're sitting in the front area of the bus as it's cruising along the mainland somewhere.
Yeah,
by
just
yourself,
driving
coming
along
up with things.
Just trying to write. And
will you shoot them in MP3? Is that what you do, or what do you do?
Yeah, yeah. I record them on my phone and then just shoot them in MP3 of
just a little informal recording to say, what do you think of this?
Yeah,
and to share ideas. How technology's really changed, even the informal way that recording can get some pre-production done, I guess. You know, not to mention the fact that you can record remotely so easily. But
and what it also allowed me to do was it allowed me to collaborate too.
Right.
Dean and I actually wrote a few pieces together where I would write maybe like a verse. Or an A section, and then I would send him an MP3 of it, and then he would write a bridge or something, and then he'd send that back to me. We'd be like, oh, that's cool, So yeah, it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of new things for me and a lot of new challenges. But what I especially love on this record is the tone that we captured, of the tone of the ukulele that we captured. And working with Milan, I remember early on, I told him, Milan, I've always loved the way that you recorded is Over the Rainbow, because the sound of the ukulele is just so natural, and his voice is so natural. When you close your eyes, you feel like you're sitting in the room with him. And I told him, I love that. How can we capture that?
Intimacy.
So he used the same microphones, that he recorded with, and he did a few different things, because obviously I don't sing, so the focus was more on the ukulele. But I think he was able to really capture a sound that I was very comfortable with, and a sound that is more familiar to me, because I think on previous records, like I could tell that's my ukulele, but it doesn't sound really, that's not what I hear so much when I play it. But with this record, the sound that's on, the way he captured it, because he had microphones by my ears too, which was cool, because he had microphones behind me, which I think captures a lot of what I hear. So it was cool. When I listened to this record, I'm like, yeah, that's me playing,
That's a great thing you point out. There's a lot of ways to record something and create ambience and sound. It's not just like you put a mic in front of it, and what you're describing there, it's cool because it does create a different sound. Good engineers know, like the one we have, Jason Taglianetti, you can use the mic. It's an art to where the mic is.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially recording. Yeah.
Jason's the man.
Passport?
Yes.
That's one of my favorites. That
I
was drawn to as I was reviewing it.
Awesome.
Is there one of those? You were talking about the stories on the road. Anything with that? Can you remember where you were? Were you in Minnesota?
That one I wrote that one in Hawaii.
Okay.
And I wrote that with Dean. We were sitting in my living room, and we were just trying to come up with some ideas, and we just that song just kind of came together. And the cool thing about that is, there's just I don't know what kind of feel, it's kind of calypso, kind of like
I wondered how you would describe that.
Yeah, it's got a different vibe, but there's almost like there's so many different influences, because there's kind of like a little bit of a quick reggae kind of feel, but calypso, kind of almost Latin like thing. But then, but it's really neat because you got this bass line in, and then you got this this counter rhythm, of the ukulele playing.
Yep.
And then the melody is just very straightforward. And it's like the happiest sound.
Right. I was just gonna say
when you put all those three elements together, it's just so happy. And I remember at the end, when I kind of take the solo, I remember Dean and Milan told me, just pretend you're the guy on the cruise ship with the hat, and you're just playing the timbales and getting everybody, up and dancing, up on their feet and dancing. And I remember, so I was like, all right, yeah. And I was playing in the studio, and I'm playing the solo, and I could just see myself on the big cruise ship, the sun and
you were
the
visualizing,
and everyone, was just dancing and having a good time. Go, yeah.
It has that timbale feel.
Yeah,
sure,
definitely. And yeah, Noel.
When you're plucking it, I hear it.
Yeah. Noel Okimoto played some amazing percussion, on this record, and that's really, I mean, if you listen to the ukulele solo on there, I'm playing very few notes. It's just, I'm probably not playing more than 5 or 6 different notes, but it's more about the rhythm in which I'm playing those notes, because I kind of approached it more like a timbale player, because a timbale, when they solo, they only have 2 drums. So they only have, it's like having 2 notes, right? But they're able to just rhythmically, they're able to convey so much, just by the different rhythmic patterns that they play. So I thought, all right, well, still playing a lot of different notes, I'm just going to gravitate toward just a few notes, but just take one note and maybe play it so many different ways. Yeah. Like that kind of thing. And then, then you add your second note. Then you add a third note. And a fourth. Just kind of, and that's what I'm hearing, the timbale,
right,
just hitting pop 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 pop, pop pop pop, and just having fun with it. So that was the approach to that song.
Is that because there are collaborators and the songs are often not you by yourself? Does it make it tricky to play? Like, if we want to hear that one, is that one you can lay down?
Yeah,
is that a tricky one?
Yeah, that one wouldn't have the same. I mean, I've never played it solo.
One that you mentioned is a good solo, the Hi'ilave.
Oh yeah, Hi'ilave has always been one of my favorites. And when I was working on the arrangement of Hi'ilave, I listened to the Gabby version over and over, because Hi'ilave has been recorded so many times, and the story, right? It comes from the Big Island, and it's a song about the love affair between the twin waterfalls of Hi'ilave. And when Gabby sings it, to me, that's the reference, for the tune, because you hear a lot of people sing it and they change the melody a lot. It's when Gabby sings the melody, it's right, and it's here. He goes back to the C there. Yeah, and stays on the C, so it's like a suspended, fifth sound, right? So when you play it in time, it's nice, right? But a lot of people will change it, and they'll do, they'll do it like. Play that. I remember hearing that a lot as a kid, but when you listen to the Gabby version, it's really interesting, because you don't hear this suspended, this like a G sus, like this G7 suspended fourth chord. You don't hear that a lot, in the very traditional music. It's more just hear a string. But, you know, when Gabby sings it, it's really... You know, it's this sound, which to me was actually quite progressive of him.
It sounds
to do
richer for some reason. Sounds thicker for some.
I mean, and you know, that's just my personal interpretation of it, you know. But I'm Japanese, so, you know.
You do so much,
you know,
so little, dude.
I don't have Hawaiian blood, even though I was born and raised here. You know, I don't have Hawaiian blood, so I don't. You know, I'm not an expert in the traditions of the music and all that. But to my ear, you know, I think back then it was actually quite progressive to hear the 5-chord, you know, as more of a suspended fourth sound.
You mentioned the ukulele with you always becomes more of the focus because you're not singing. Maybe you might hum along a little here and there to songs, but there is some singing on the record.
I don't know if you'd call that singing. well, the part there that, you know, so the way that started was I just thought, oh, let's have fun with it, you know, because I did a cover of Lowrider,
right,
which I always thought would be such a cool tune to play on the ukulele because, you know, because that song, the memorable line on that song is actually played by the harmonica. Played on a harmonica, you know, by Lee Oscar. And to me, the harmonica is kind of like, you know, the ukulele of wind instruments, right? If you think about it, you know, because it's tiny and it's kind of, you know, and people have a certain stereotype about the harmonica, right? You know, so I thought it would be really, really interesting to play that line, you know, and hear it on the ukulele, you know, and whereas, you know, the ukulele is kind of, well, the ukulele of string instrument, I don't know, it
That's
doesn't
a good
really make
point,
sense.
though.
But you know, but it's kind of like the harmonica of string instruments.
Yeah, the underappreciation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, I get that.
You know, so I thought I always thought that would be such a cool song to cover, and when I first started playing it, I played it in the key of C, but the bass line, the interesting thing about this song is once I started analyzing it is the bass line doesn't start on the root. So it doesn't start on C. It actually starts a whole step down. So the first note is B flat, even though you're in a key of C. So on the ukulele, your lowest note is C. So if I were to play the bass line, I don't have the low B flat. So I would have to play the B flat, you know, an octave higher. Then it sounds like this. Right? But it's da no, right? Which doesn't really make sense. So I transpose it up a whole step to D because now I got the low C. So now it's and you got right. So it has a different sound to it, but it works on the ukulele. But at the same time, I didn't like where the melody was placed, you know, in the new key. So what I did was we played it a few times that way, and then the second half of the song, we actually do this really interesting modulation. Normally, when you're singing a song and you modulate higher, right? It's always higher, right? Because then the singer takes it up, you know, to a higher pitch, and you know they can belt it out even more, right? You never hear a modulation where it modulates lower, right? But I thought it would be so appropriate because the song is called The Lowrider. And when you're driving the lowrider car, right, it gets lower and lower and lower. So one night I was sitting with my ukulele, and from the key of D, since the bass line starts a whole step lower than the actual key, so which actually starts on C, and then goes to the D, right? I thought it would be so easy to modulate down to the C because we have a strong tendency to hear the first beat of every note as the root or the key of the song. So now we got, watch this, and we're in C now. But you don't even realize it, you know? It's the coolest thing, but it works very well with that song because the bass line actually starts a whole step lower than the key.
It's a juicy one. You want to, is that one you want to mess around on?
Well, that one, I don't really.
It's
play
hard on
those
this record.
songs.
'Cause you got so much accompaniment. The other
Yeah,
one I was
yeah.
talking about was Everything Is Better With You, is the one I was referring to.
Okay, okay. Oh well. So anyways, with the lowrider one, one morning I woke up and I realized, I was talking. I was like, oh yeah, something like this. When you wake up and you got that groggy voice.
Right.
So I thought, oh, this would be perfect because I could do the all
Right.
my friends know the low rider. And I thought, oh man, so I called up Milana. Hey, what do you think of this? And he was like, yeah. And I was talking with Dean about it, and he was like, yeah, you should sing it. You should definitely sing it. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll just, just for something. So it's actually my vocal debut.
Well, it sounds very nice too.
Well, the other song, the real vocal tune on the album, is a collaboration with my all-time favorite Hawaiian band, and they're called the Side Order Band.